The Hillsboro School District 1J Board of Directors regular session is now in order. We will begin like we always do with a flag salute. The flag is in the corner by the window. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, I will be reading the Hillsboro School District Land Acknowledgement. As we gather here today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge that our district service area is on the occupied traditional homelands of the Okwalati Indigenous people, lands we now call Washington County and the state of Oregon. We honor the Indigenous people whose traditional and ancestral homelands we stand on, the Tualatin, Kalapuya, Kathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Molalla, bands of the Chinook, and many other Indigenous nations of the Columbia River. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their ancestors. We also recognize the urban, Indigenous, Native, First Peoples community living in the metro area, which includes over 400 tribal nations. The Hillsboro School District is committed to the recognition and education regarding tribal and local history and working with our local tribes in partnership. Our next agenda item is proclamations. We will have Director Thomas read our first proclamation, which is the National Volunteer Week proclamation. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Yes, I'm a volunteer. Woohoo! The Hillsboro School District recognizes that family and community involvement is a significant factor in the success of schools. By becoming a volunteer, family and community members are providing an invaluable contribution to the education of our students. The Hillsboro School District appreciates the service of dedicated volunteers to assist professional educators by offering their time, encouragement, and meaningful contact with students. The Hillsboro School District acknowledges that volunteers are called upon to assist teachers and staff with the day-to-day activities involved in providing a balanced education for our students and are an important part of a team that strives to ensure that each one of our students succeeds. The Hillsboro School District thanks volunteers for spending innumerable hours serving schools as chaperones, mentors, after-school tutors, club leaders, booster club members, PTA, PTO, PAC members, guest speakers, classroom helpers, athletic coaches, board members, and in countless other ways. The Hillsboro School District do hereby proclaim the week of April 19th through the 25th, 2026 to be National Volunteer Week. And we urge all community members to join us in recognizing the many contributions and achievements of volunteers to the development and prosperity of our community.
Thank you. Our next proclamation is the School Bus Driver Recognition Day proclamation read by Director Patrick McGuire.
My mother works in early childhood education, so whenever we talk about buses, I want to sing that song about the wheels on the bus in my head. but I'll be official here. The Hillsboro School District recognizes the invaluable service school bus drivers provide in transporting students to and from school every day. We believe it is important to appreciate and honor school bus drivers and recognize the tremendous contributions they make to education and safety for our students. We recognize that each year bus drivers transport here in Hillsboro School District more than 13,000 students between home, school, and events safely. Each year, approximately 130 school bus routes are driven more than 1,700,000 miles by dedicated drivers of the Hillsboro School District. We applaud our school bus drivers, and therefore the Board of Education of the Hillsboro School District do hereby proclaim April 28, 2026 to be School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. And we urge all community members to join us in recognizing the many contributions and achievements of school bus drivers to the Hillsboro School District community.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is the approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we amend the agenda by placing action item H before action item G, since a number of our board members are unwell and joining us virtually. It'll give us a chance to make sure we get the action items done.
I second that.
It has been moved by Director McGuire and seconded by Director Thomas to amend the agenda. Is there any discussion or objection? Okay, motion carries. Our next agenda is audience time. Do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening? No. All right, then moving on. We will now approve the consent agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move that the board of directors approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
It has been moved by Director McGuire and seconded by Director Thomas to approve the consent agenda as printed. Is there any discussion or objection? Okay, motion carries. We will now move to action items. And our next we're doing the section H before the report. So our next agenda item is to adopt the adopt interdistrict transfers plan. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that the board of directors adopt the interdistrict transfer plan for the 26-27 school year.
I second.
It has been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director McGuire that the Board of Directors adopt the interdistrict transfers plan for the 2026-2027 school year. Is there any further discussion?
Do we have any staff report on this item?
Yeah, I was just ready to talk about it if you wanted to, but we did discuss this in last month's meeting and the board did have discussion time about it, but I'm happy to answer any further questions if you have them.
I read the report. I wasn't here last month, but I read the report and everything looks fine. Thank you for bringing this
Great.
forward.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Rose, can you please call the roll, please?
Patrick McGuire,
Aye.
Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Jessica Harden Mercado,
Aye.
Sheehan Kim,
Aye. Motion carries. Our next agenda item is to declare surplus equipment and authorize disposal. Saide, did you have anything to add here? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that the board of directors declare the HSD facilities department equipment surplus and authorizes the disposal in accordance with district surplus procedures.
I second the motion.
It has been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director McGuire that the Board of Directors declare the HSD Facilities Department equipment surplus and authorize the disposal in accordance with district surplus procedures. Is there any further discussion?
Just thanks, Saida. I know this is a big deal that you have to do annually, so thank you.
Rose, can you please call the roll, please?
Patrick McGuire,
Aye.
Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Jessica Harden Mercado,
Aye.
Sheehan Kim.
Aye. Motion carries. We will now move to reports and discussions. Our first report is the 2025-2026 Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plan with Brooke and Jenny.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have the coordinator of mental and behavioral health, Jenny Carey, who's going to present our annual drug, alcohol, and tobacco prevention and intervention program. This will be on first reading. It gives an opportunity for you to review the plan, ask any questions that you may have, and then next month we'll move that into an action item for vote. Take it away, Jenny.
All right. Thank you. All right. Tonight, we're going to kind of year after year go over our approach to prevention and intervention in our district for addressing substance use. So we're going to talk a little bit about the plan for students, review some of our Oregon student health survey data, and review our connections and outreach as well to celebrate some of the great work that's happening in schools with time for questions at the end. Our approach to this is really aligned systems. That's kind of what we're going to review. So we want to make sure that our students are, receiving strong care, and that's through district partnerships and community partnerships, as well as having really strong systems and support available to students and families building level. So we're really hoping to create clear pathways for prevention, early identification of needs, and intervention when possible, with a streamlined support system when we need to connect students to care in the community. So our plan here is linked and I believe is in your packet. This is a outline really that reviews the curriculum and programming that's associated with our prevention plan, and is connected to Division 22 and our district policy related to substance use prevention, and includes information about education and curriculum, as well as early intervention and student support services that are available to students in school, and our referral pathways. There we go. This graphic is something that we have available to our school teams that really show the continuum of response when we have substance use risk identified to us related to students. So starting with early concern, we want to really make sure that we're identifying those needs and connecting to care as a preventative measure. So really outside of when they're getting into trouble with an on-campus offense, we're hoping to really connect to support earlier and sooner. And so our district really prioritizes the early intervention and identification of these needs as much as possible, as well as when there are issues that are coming up in school, that we have discipline procedures that reflect our value to keep kids connected and in school as much as possible. So we're talking, kind of the term of, alternatives to exclusion, disciplinary practices as much as possible, reflected in our progressive discipline plan. And really this is about folding in support. Even if kids are getting into trouble, we really want to be folding in support and connection as a part of our response to those needs. So we really work with getting them connected to an on-site counselor, screening some of those needs, providing skill building, and psychoeducation as much as we can at the building level. The staffing investments here that we have this year are really the district level leadership and then the building level supports that are available as a part of this plan. And this year, the staffing updates really kind of reflect the reductions that we saw in our budget this year. So this reflects a reduction in a student engagement specialist that was full-time, a part-time health and wellness TOSA, and a reduction of one mental health care coordinator that were all a part of our plan last year. So that update is reflected here. But what you'll also see is school-based mental health intern programming. So that's something that in association with those reductions, we were able to expand internship programming to really come in and address some of the direct service and connection needs that we were losing with those reductions. Our continuum of support is really our prevention framework, not just for substance use, but for mental health and violence prevention as well. So what you'll see here is that our system is organized around prevention, early intervention, and treatment support. And that involves our transformative cell programming at the in school, our advisory lessons, any curriculum that's going out to students related to mental health, opioid prevention. And under Senate Bill 238, our opioid prevention lessons changed last year. There's some ODE required lessons that are folded into this plan this year, but we also supplement with additional advisory lessons around substance use as well as opioid prevention. Our community outreach and connection to families is a part of this work, having strong community at schools, as well as a good, strong climate and culture where students feel a sense of connection and belonging. That's all kind of a part of the prevention framework. And then it identifies in early intervention our ability to screen and identify students that have risk factors for substance use and intervene as early as possible in identifying what they need, connecting them to support at the building level, district level, or community level for care. This also involves our outreach to families when we have identified risks, getting, students and families involved with learning more about the risks and the programming and treatment and help options in our community. When needs persist or are more extreme, we have the ability to connect them to formal treatment. We do that either by connecting them to our school-based health center, or our mental health care coordination team is available to connect to meaningful mental health or addiction care in the community. And we have a ton of strong community partnerships that are a part of that work as well. Oops, I skipped a page here. Let me go back. All right. So one of the things I really want to highlight as we think about that continuum of support of universal support, early identification, brief, intervention, and referral to connection is our middle school-based screening, brief intervention, and referral to support program. And this is a model that we've had going now our second year and has expanded to all 4 middle schools. The program really involves implementing a program called the Check Yourself tool. We go classroom to classroom and screen for risk factors associated with substance use, mental health, and safety risk. So we are looking for those risk factors, but we also, what we love about the Check Yourself tool is we get to screen for protective factors as well and goals. So like 75% of students talked about wanting to improve their grades as we screened this year. So we think that that's really important, because to be able to support and connect and intervene with risk, you have to know how to build on strengths and interests. And that screener really allows for us to do that. And so when there is a risk factor identified, we connect that student to a counselor, trained counselor or intern to review more about what their needs are, learn about what their interests are, really leverage those in coming up with a plan for support. And at times, there's a direct pathway to connection to community care or mental health services if needed. Some of what we've learned this year in our screening is we were able to screen over 1,000 students as of the end of February, which is really tremendous reach for all 4 of our schools to have participated at the level that they have. It's been awesome to see. We learned that 63% of our students are really doing pretty well, and they're identifying goals and feeling good about those goals. The student 27% were screened with some sort of risk factor, anxiety, substance use, potentially harassment, bullying, those kinds of things. So that was about 27%. 10% were screened for tier 3, which is a safety risk, suicide ideation, self-harm, harassment, and bullying that impacted the sense of safety for a student. And so with this data, we're able to really start to organize around how to identify those needs and connect those students to support. We had 929 students complete a screener. One of the things to really celebrate, and one of the reasons to advocate for a program like this, is that 55% of the students that were screened with risk factors, they were students that were not on our radar for those needs already. And so when we think about a former system that relied a little bit more on observed risk or self-identification or walk-ins, right? Those students that like, hey, counselor, I need some support. We were missing students with that, relying on that method. And so when you move towards a more universal approach to screening, we're able to see a more equitable identification system for students to be able to get those needs addressed sooner. So the idea is we kind of shift from that reaction and response model to a more connection and prevention model with this program. So really want to highlight and celebrate the work that's been going on in those schools there. And when we do have needs that we want to connect students to care, we have a couple of different pathways that we can do that. Our care teams at every school are an interdisciplinary group of administrators, counselors, sometimes community partners, sometimes SROs that sit and really identify and review the needs of our highest risk students, and then explore the available supports either at the building, district, or community when they need connection to care. And through care teams, we can also pursue referral to community-based services with our mental health care coordination team, who every day are connecting with students and families across the district to get connected to that meaningful and appropriate best fit match to the services in the community. These teams also offer consultation and support to one another. There's professional development opportunities within these programs, family outreach and connection. They advise on the lessons that go out to students and help us look at our data and really determine priorities at the building level as well. And this flyer reflects the current this year's referral pathways for substance use in particular. So these are our community partners and agencies that we would be connecting families to and students to in the event that they had the need for treatment related to drug and alcohol abuse. And then good system and comprehensive plan revolves around having good data tracking, good monitoring. So one of the ways we do that is through our student health survey data. It's surveillance data. It's annual survey that goes out statewide. So we're able to look at Oregon data. We're able to look at Washington County data and kind of compare that to HSD students. The thing to really remind folks about right now is that the results that we have linked in the slides are preliminary from our fall survey. And the tricky part about analyzing this or thinking about this in a year-over-year way is they keep changing the questions a little bit, enough that it's hard to track the trends as well. But it does give us a good snapshot at where our students are, what the use prevalence in our community of 6th, 8th, and 11th graders, and kind of where it stands. So you do see the increase in substance use from 6th to 8th to 11th, pretty evident in that data. If you want to see more trend data, that 2024 and comprehensive school health survey or student health survey report is in your packet, is linked in your packet to comprehensive plan. And that is a viable way to kind of see if there's changes over time to some of the questions that we're able to look at that for. I wasn't clicking, sorry about that. All right. And in addition to education, our teams support thousands of students across the district with connections to appropriate support and service every year. And so we really want to kind of highlight and celebrate some of that work. These numbers reflect the scale of needs as well as our response systems. So we have arrows because, again, some of the reductions has really impacted where we've been able to provide that direct service. So you'll see things like the individual students served by wellness centers. Our wellness centers at our elementary were reduced by half last year or for this year. And so we see the numbers of students served in that program reduced pretty significantly. So if you're looking last year's report and this year's report, you're going to see a pretty significant change. Same with mental health care coordinators. We do see an increase in student services provided by the secondary student support and wellness counselors that are really our go-to when we're working with students with risk factors for school disengagement, substance use being one of those things. So we have that team really connecting to a lot of students for that support, as well as the giant, tremendous efforts of our family outreach liaison team this year to connect with families with basic needs support, and anything really coming up that they need. So that has been a relatively neutral support this year. McKinney-Vento referrals are down, but we talked with our team about that, and it really kind of reflects the outreach that we've done, making sure teams are really aware of that program and what a good fit referral for that team is. And so while the referrals are down, the actual connections and eligibility are up relative to that number. And so it means that our schools are making really strong referrals to that team for families that are really appropriate for that level of support. And so that's there as well. And some of our McKinney-Vento students, as it relates to the substance use conversation, that's a higher risk group, for substance use and some of the other mental health needs we're talking about in this report. Our school-based services has been something that we've been working on expanding over the last several years. And while we continue to do that and invest in a couple of different programs, one being Youth Contact and one Northwest Counseling Associates for our elementary school, we did part ways with one of our contracts this year with Life Stance Health. And again, similarly, we have worked on building and bridging internship programming into those spaces so that the schools didn't see as much of an impact to that reduction as we can continue to help kids and families connect to some of available mental health support through that internship program. All right. And our work in this realm relies really heavily on our connections with community partnerships. It's really important to us that schools are working alongside community agencies, prevention folks, and viable, culturally responsive community practitioners to make sure that our students have what they need to feel supported. And so organizations like Washington County Behavioral Health, our Latino network partners, and local health providers really has helped us expand our ability to provide those relevant supports and services to students. And some of the folks here are our go-to partners in making sure we have connections. We have Washington County Behavioral Health and prevention folks informing our advisory lessons and our staff training around substance use and suicide prevention. And we have a lot of people to really thank as a part of this work. And that is what I have prepared today. And I have time for questions. Or do I have time for questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Back on page 9, I think it is, with the pyramid.
Okay. Yeah. The Esper data.
Yes.
Mhm.
It said 929. You had 1,019 total submissions.
Yep.
929 completed.
Correct.
What does that mean if you had 1,019 submissions? But does that mean that some people did not complete it?
It means that some students opted not to complete the survey. And so so 28, so that many students were invited to partake, and 28 denied consent students at the survey. So they either denied consent, no, I'm not going to do this at all, or they closed their survey mid-survey and said, nope, I didn't like that one. Or they got distracted and did something else. But it just reflects that the submission wasn't complete.
Okay. And then I take it because of the 16 consent declined parents, that meant that there was advance notice and then parents were.
Correct. Yeah. There's a family communication that goes out as a part of this program where information about the screening and the response program is shared with parents, and they're given an opportunity to opt out. And that reflects the number that have this year opted out. Yeah.
And then my other question was, sorry, on page 5, it's the drug and alcohol continuum of support.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at it in terms of what people are, I don't know. I see it as a progressive discipline. I see the progressive discipline goes for distribution, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is an intent to distribute, that makes sense on its face. But I was wondering, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like you're really helping. Disciplining, yes. Helping, no. Or am I missing how this is?
Any student that's identified with a on-campus substance use risk, right? They're caught on campus with drugs or under the influence. They're offered as a part of our discipline progression, a connection to a program called Teen Intervene with our student support and wellness counselor. So every secondary school, this is true for, the family would have the opportunity to have their student connect with a support and wellness counselor for screening and brief intervention related to their substance use specifically. And they talk about decision making, and it's a motivational interviewing approach that helps them to kind of set some goals related to the substance use and school, and work on engagement from there. So all of the folks that get identified with an on-site issue do get offered that. But right now that's a active consent for families. So families have to consent for that program as opposed to opt out. So some students take advantage of that opportunity, and some students don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I just would like to say, please pass along to everyone on your team that we really appreciate this work. I think
I will.
every year when we look at this, I'm appreciative of the fact that I think the programming when I was in school 20 years ago was a little bit more less science-based and more dramatic and less effective, as research has shown. So I always appreciate that we do try and be based in the science, what is actually helping students and families. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for your presentation and really appreciate the preventative approach to it. I do have one question. For the school-based services, I see, there's 6 elementary schools and then 18 small groups for the youth contact, 2 middle schools, or 4 high schools, 2 middle schools, 4 elementary schools for the youth contact. How do we determine which schools to partner with?
Oh, that's
or
a
which
really
schools
that's
will
really
have
good
those
question.
programs?
Yeah, we work with our executive directors and our building leaders to really identify where there's a lot of needs. We also look at data. So where are their mental health care coordination referrals really high, reflecting a need for additional potential supports, right? There's also, it can't just be like, where are the highest referrals? Because sometimes there's a lot of families that can and will connect to outside services, but there's also schools where there are barriers to being able to connect to outside services. And so it's really through the collaboration with our building leadership that we identify if there's a lot of need because there are barriers to accessing outside care. That's where we would dedicate that support.
Okay. And do you revisit that every year?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep. Sometimes a couple times a year.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that was a great question.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank
for your
you.
time. That brings us to our next report, which is the financial report with Scott. And I see, Scott, you are online whenever you're ready. Take it away.
I am. Thank you, Vice Chair Kim, and apologies to everyone. I'm not there. I'm a little under the weather myself tonight, but glad to see you all virtually. A couple things I'll just highlight. Cash flow statement for February came in really just dead on aligned with our model. So no surprises there. Things are tracking to finish as we expect in terms of expenditures and revenue for this year. And then secondly, we made a lot of good progress this month with some of our efficiency and modernization efforts, Amazon e-procurement, which Kylie's been driving, a lot of the digital timesheets, which Emily and Yuri have been driving, really good progress on both those fronts. So we'll continue to look for ways to just find efficiencies and take advantage of some of the newer tech possibilities that are out there for our back office side of the school district. And with that, happy to answer any questions or receive any comments that the board has.
Thank you, Scott.
No questions or comments. Hope you feel better. So sorry you're under the weather.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our last report is to discuss the 2026-2027 board meeting dates with Rose.
Hi, the board meeting dates are just along the normal schedule. If you have any questions, please reach out to me.
Any questions?
Yeah, I was discussing briefly. I think our pattern works well for us here in the district of having a work session where we very seldom take public test. Anyone comes for public testimony where it's mostly presentations, and a second meeting later in the month where we have a work session and a regular session like this where we do business. I do wonder, since we've been doing that for so long, if we should, just as a matter of best practice, look at some point, what are other districts doing? Are they doing 2 meetings a month as well? I also was wondering a little bit, would there be any merit to considering the one that's just the work session where we very seldom take action, discussing whether we want to do that entirely virtually so that staff have more efficiency and don't have to come in person. So I'm not recommending anything now, but more saying that maybe for our August retreat, I'll do a little preparation and ask around the peer districts just out of curiosity if there's anything that would be more efficient or better for the community. Because I think what we're doing works very well, but I always want to be just checking in every few years when we've done something for a long time to make sure that no one needs any changes. But other than that, the dates look fine.
Off the top of my head, I know that other districts don't do quite as long of meetings as us. I think that Forest Grove does 2 a month, and they are maybe 2 2-hour meetings. And I will look at the other meetings and kind of get some data for us as well to present at the August session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. All right. Well, seeing there are no other discussion items, we will go to HEA and HCU reports.
Good evening, Vice Chair Kim, fellow school board members, Superintendent Ryman, and administrative leaders. My name is Mary Kay Babcock, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a proud music educator of 28 years. It is an honor and a privilege to serve as the Hillsboro Education Association president. March is Women's History Month, and it's worth recognizing that public education has long been shaped by the leadership, dedication, and advocacy of women. Teaching remains a profession largely made up of women who show up every day, not just as educators, but as mentors, advocates, and caretakers of students and families of this community. But honoring educators must go beyond words. It must include ensuring the conditions necessary for them to do their work well and sustain their careers. Right now, educators across Hillsboro are raising consistent concerns about workload, safety, and staffing. These concerns are not theoretical, but they are happening in our classrooms every day. Losing prep time and instructional time due to staffing shortages and other competing demands. Supporting students with increasingly complex needs without adequate staff or resources. Managing caseloads and responsibilities that extend far beyond the workday, particularly in special education, and working in environments where student and staff safety become harder to maintain when the necessary supports are not in place. These are not isolated experiences. These are patterns that we are hearing from educators across multiple schools. The reality is that educators are holding together a system that is being stretched beyond its capacity. And we know that districts across Oregon are facing financial challenges. And the recent legislative session once again highlighted the gap between what our schools are expected to provide and the resources available to support the work that we do. But while state funding challenges are real, the decisions made at the district level also matter. How we ensure safety in our schools, how we prioritize staffing, how we support special education services, how we protect educator planning time. These decisions shape the daily experiences of both our students and our educators. Our educators want to be part of the solution. They care deeply about this district and the students that they serve. But they are asking for something very reasonable, working conditions that allow them to meet our students' needs without sacrificing their own sustainability, safety, and work-life balance. As we recognize Women's History Month, I ask that we also acknowledge and honor the leadership and the expertise of the educators in this district, many of whom have dedicated decades of service to our students and our community. Our educators remain deeply committed to their students, but many are exhausted from holding together a system that increasingly relies on their personal sacrifices to keep the system functioning. The question before us is simple. Will the system show the same level of commitment to the educators who show up for our students every single day? We're looking forward to continuing this conversation at Thursday's listening session with Superintendent Ryman and district leadership as we work together to address these concerns and ensure that our schools remain safe, supportive environments for both students and educators who serve them. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have our HCU report.
Superintendent Ryman, Board of Directors, student representatives. Good evening. And to those of you that are ill online or just not present, I hope you all get to feeling better. My name is David Eggleston. I have been a school bus driver since the year 2000 with the Hillsboro School District, raised 4 children here going through McKinney, Evergreen, and Glencoe. And I've been Hillsboro Classified United president with the classified staff of Hillsboro since July of last year. I don't know about all of you, but there's a lot of things where we may lack control, or we know we lack control these days when it comes to social and political and economic realities that are affecting public education, affecting all of us, administrators, management, licensed and classified staff. Tonight, I want to talk about three areas around influence. Areas where we have less influence, where we just acknowledge we have less influence. Areas where we have some influence, where we're really working to make a difference, and then areas where we have lots of influence. Areas where we have less influence might focus on federal funding for education, or the SAVE Act that is underway around voting rights and voting, and that's its impact upon public education. And we can lament that we don't have a lot of influence there. But then there are areas where we have some influence, where we can focus our energies in productive and constructive ways. So Hillsboro Classified United has been constantly advocating for sustainable education funding in the state of Oregon, as have so many people around this room, our licensed partners with HEA, OEA. We're constantly doing that. We recently actively supported the passing of Senate Bill 1507, helping preserve $291 million of funding, tax revenue for Oregon, protecting that revenue, which I hope in some way will have at least some helpful effect for our public education funding. And then right now at this very moment, some of our classified staff are interviewing candidates for endorsement interviews for the upcoming election. And this week, I participated in some last night. There's more happening tonight, more happening tomorrow night. It's a busy time. And tonight, in fact, is in collaboration with our HEA partners, where we're adding our voices and support to candidates who will stand up and show up for funding for public education. Now, where do we have lots of influence? That might be a head scratcher. Some of you have heard my reports before. I've often talked about empathy and compassion in these reports. And empathy and compassion historically in this country and many cultures have been considered to be soft skills, yet increasingly across industry, in leadership and management, these two soft skills are increasingly being seen as power skills. And in education, empathy and compassion play very important roles in social emotional learning and emotional intelligence. When applying these two power skills, not only with students, but also with staff, the dividends or return on investment can be profound. I'll refer you to a 2024 Harvard University EdCast called Why Emotional Intelligence Matters for Educators. Social emotional skill building for leaders can change the culture of a school for the better. We have a lot of influence here. And to all of you as the management of HSD and to the board who oversees the management of HSD, please grant me these few remaining moments to suggest 3 practices for utilizing the power skills of empathy and compassion. First practice, practicing empathy and compassion in self-care. You've heard, I think many of you have, a dysregulated adult will never regulate or co-regulate a dysregulated child. Well, I think the same is true in management. A dysregulated adult will never regulate or co-regulate another dysregulated adult. Self-care empathy and compassion for self among admins and supervisors is so important. And so as classified staff, we would invite that area of influence of self-care for management, that we need y'all to take care of yourselves because then you can support us in taking care of ourselves. Second practice, as best you can, after ensuring that your oxygen mask is securely fastened with empathy and compassion for self, please give 5 to 10 minutes a day, or if that's impossible or a stretch to start, a few minutes a day to being present with your staff, including your classified staff. I know that life is full. Meetings, emails, text messages, administration. It's a lot. Now, you don't have to be buddy or best friends with everyone, not at all. Just demonstrate daily by your actions in small ways that you care. That you care. Some of our classified staff really are unsure if their admins and supervisors care. And I know, I've worked alongside so many of you. I know that care is there. Some of our staff, can't see it. Lastly, please practice empathy and compassion by ensuring that all classified staff receive their contractual benefits. What? Contract, compassion, and empathy? I'll give 4 quick examples. And the reason that these are important, I believe, is that when classified staff can count on us working together and collaboratively to help ensure that the contract is followed, it creates a culture and climate of predictability and safety, emotionally and physically. So Article 2 on page 6, immediate supervisors perform the following duties, including but not limited to addressing staff concerns and ensuring rest and meal breaks are appropriately scheduled. Article 5 on pages 14 and 15, access to technology, a sufficient amount of time during their scheduled work hours, not including rest and meal breaks, to check email or other digital resources within available resources, technology necessary to fulfill their job duties. Just having time to do their job, to file the reports, to read the emails, the directives, the guidance for their work. Article 9 on pages 21 and 22, rest and meal breaks, ensuring that classified staff can almost always count on receiving their state mandated and contractual rest and meal breaks. But that rather than it being an exception, it becomes normative. And then lastly, Article 19 on pages 47 and 50, safety and health, having access to PPE necessary to fulfill their job responsibilities, opportunities to talk with a supervisor within 2 workdays when a student situation has resulted in or may result in serious physical harm to an employee. Having state mandated and contractual access to education plans and being consulted when those plans are being developed, reviewed, or revised. These are ways of having compassion and empathy and exercising it. And we can have lots of influence in that area. It does take a little time and effort to practice self-care, to spend some time supporting staff, and to help ensure that staff can know that the contract will be followed. Thank you so much, all of you, for all the work you do and for listening this evening.
Thank you. This brings us to discussion time. We'll start off tonight's discussion with our student representative. Thank you. Now we'll go to superintendent's time.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kim. I want to thank Jenny Carey and our counselor crew. They've made so many improvements about how we engage students. Specifically, Jenny mentioned how it is that we engage students through a screener that we use that would reveal students who are in need beyond what we notice from students walking in and accessing the counseling center. And I just want to thank them for all their work. I've learned a ton from them about how to care for our students, and we've advanced that work so far in the last 10 years. I really appreciate her leadership. I also wanted to share appreciation for everyone in this room's awareness and advocacy around issues that affect us in education in Salem during this short session. We made a splash as HSD, from directors to staff to our union partners to our teachers, our principals. Our student voices were heard in Salem, and thank you for your advocacy and your consistent communication with our elected officials in Salem. I wanted to celebrate our Chamber of Commerce, who sponsors the Crystal Apple Awards. We've started doing, in partnership with our communications department, school and department leaders, the announcement of folks who have been nominated for Crystal Apples. And then on Thursday, April 23rd, there will be a celebration at the Walters Center. It's not about who wins. It's just about hearing the letters of support written for the folks who've been nominated for those awards, and just a chance to appreciate classified, licensed admin, super tech staff who go above and beyond to educate our kids. It's a great time of year, and we really appreciate the partnership with the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Board of Directors time. Rose, do we have anyone online? No. Okay, thank you. We will start with Director McGuire.
I would like to say that I very much appreciate what our HCU president said. I identify greatly with the contract is the baseline, the minimum, but we expect, our expectation, my expectation as a board member is going far beyond that. He talked about compassion and empathy. I think one of the philosophers said, as sun makes ice melt, kindness causes mistrust and hostility to evaporate. And I think that it's so important in environments that collaboration you mentioned, that people feel like they're consulted on plans and policies and programs rather than them just being handed down. That's every human knows that feeling. And so I appreciate you advocating for that. And I'm confident that our leadership team will continue to listen to that message. I also want to mention that there was a national news, education news article a few days ago about Oregon and how our NAEP scores are relatively low nationally, but more beyond that, about how Stanford Children commissioned a report last month identifying chronic absenteeism and the length of our school year as two of the big challenges. We all know that we have doubts about whether test scores adequately reflect actual student outcomes, but I still found it a very interesting report that Stanford Children commissioned, and it discussed how the fact that our in-school time, our school year length is 9% shorter than the median. They showed what I found to be pretty compelling evidence that if we continue to work toward more contact time and a longer school year, that extra opportunity for students would translate into significant student ability gains. So I think that in a time of constrained budgets and a feeling of scarcity, it's hard to talk about that sort of thing, but I want, as a board member, to be open to not just the little day-to-day managerial tasks, but also the big picture, systemic and structural things about how we're serving students. And so I encourage board colleagues to read that report and see what you think about it. And also, I'd like to say it's beginning to feel like spring. We had a rainy day today, but we've also had some happy warm weather. So to all the spring extracurricular activities that'll be beginning soon for our students in our schools, best wishes for all of that. And thank you for everything.
Dr. Thomas.
In honor of Women's History Month, my favorite quote is, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." I admittedly have just recently found out who actually said that. It was a Harvard professor. Her name was Laura Ulrich. And I appreciate that because let's just say that's my life story. As I was listening to our two HCU and HEA representatives, I had a flashback to a favorite song in a different time. In 1976, Stevie Wonder wrote an album that arguably had 20-some songs on it. Many people consider that his opus because it was incredible. One of the songs that is incredible on that album is called "I Wish," and I immediately thought about what I wished for. I wish that education and teaching professionals got the priority and the respect and the pay and the funding that it deserves. I wish we had infinite funds to hire infinite teachers and support professionals who love to work with kids. I wish that every school had all of the mental health support and staff it needed for all of the children and the teachers and the support staff. I wish that there was a way to communicate more effectively with teachers without utilizing your planning periods and without taking up your lunchtime. I wish that all parents raised their children. And finally, I wish that all teachers and support staff were millionaires because you deserve it. Every now and then, we spend a lot of time talking about what we can't do, talking about what we don't have, and talking about how we're going to manage our resources to do more with less. And we are having to do that now. It's not fair. It's not right. It's reprehensible that we're even in this situation. And yet here we are. So I just wanted you to know that we hear you when you say you want safety to be important. We hear you when you say we have a contract. I get it. But apparently there's a miscommunication here because we should have a lot more than what we do. Just know that some of us would really love to give it to you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. A couple weeks ago, it was National Engineers Week, and I had the pleasure of visiting Arenco Elementary School. Thank you, Rose, for helping coordinate. I got to go visit a 4th grade classroom, and it was amazing. I was actually scratching my head as to how the students would complete this project. It was basically a number of volunteers came in. Many of them worked at Intel, and I believe there were a couple of classrooms across the district, and even at Arenco, there were 2 different classrooms that hosted these volunteers. And after watching a presentation, they had to create a machine using a cardboard bowl, a cardboard cup, straws. Anyways, they had to build a sorting machine where you had to sort different sized, what do you call it? Different sized, I don't even know what the name is. Different sized things, chips, thank you. Different sized chips. And they were also different colors. And you basically the kids were just told to go make a sorting machine that would be able to sort based on, you can't do it by color, so you have to do it by shape. And it was so fascinating seeing just the collaboration or the lack thereof from certain student groups. And I had asked the teacher if the class had, received any, pre-work leading up to this presentation. And she was like, no, we just kind of throw them right in. But it was really cool to see just how the students were able to collaborate and some of the questions they were coming with, and some people who just take scissors and get right in before even hearing all the instructions. But it was such an awesome partnership, and really appreciated the Intel volunteers who had given their time. And it sounds like we've been doing that type of partnership for over a decade. And so would just encourage, continue to encourage our teachers in our classrooms. I believe right now it's hey, if you want to sign up, go ahead and sign up type of a thing. But I don't think we limit. I don't think they've ever had to turn down a classroom because they didn't have enough volunteers. But it was an awesome time. So thank you again, Rose, for organizing that. We had a blast. So that is all I have. I hope everyone feels better and stays safe and healthy and warm. Hopefully we get some more springtime weather soon. And with that, thank you everyone for being here. This meeting is adjourned at 8:00.